They thought humans were myths, bedtime stories told to keep reckless younglings in line. The Koralin Empire had charted thousands of systems, colonized hundreds, subjugated dozens of species beneath their crystalline banners. Not once had they found a single shred of evidence that humans had ever existed. Their archivists called it cultural contamination, an old tale seeded by some ancient traitor to frighten children into behaving. And so the story went. If you lied, if you stole, if you hurt the weak, the humans would come for you, wrapped in storms of metal and flame, their eyes burning with a cold fury that not even suns could thaw. Admiral Serac once laughed at the myths with his bridge officers, sipping amber wine as their fleet coiled like serpents through the black. He would quote the old lines, "They burn worlds for warmth, they tame death world with bare hands, they hunt tyrants like beasts." Now he stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Radiant Spear, staring at the edge of the system as alarm screamed around him. What had arrived did not match any known hull profile. No Koralin ship had that brutal, blocky shape, like iron castles drifting through the void. No Koralin ship bristled with so many visible weapons that their sensors overloaded trying to count them. There were no banners of crystal or flowing plasma sails. Just cold, armored dread, engines burning blue like captive stars. "Admiral, they're broadcasting," his comms officer croaked, voice trembling. Serac turned. On speakers. The voice came through, old, deep, filtered through static in languages none of the Koralin Empire had used in 1,000 years. Then it switched, auto-translators humming. "To the occupying forces of the Koralin Empire, you are trespassing. Withdraw from this system. Cease all acts of subjugation. Release your captives. This is your only warning." Serac barked a laugh that died before it left his throat. The myths. It couldn't be. Yet the shape of those ships matched the old etchings carved into forbidden archives. Wedge-shaped behemoths, bristling with guns and resolve. "Weapons," Serac said. "Bring the fleet about. Show these ghosts how real power speaks." Hundreds of Koralin cruisers turned in elegant arcs, sapphire shields flaring, plasma lances spooling to lethal brightness. The human Armada, if that's what was, didn't flinch. No grand formations, no shimmering shields. Just that silent, patient approach, engine steady, guns aimed. Serac snarled, "Fire." The void bloomed with liquid light as the Koralin fleet unleashed its fury. Plasma bolts streaked out, beam lances carved invisible sides through space. Serac watched, heart pounding, waiting for myth to vanish under sheer force. But the human ships didn't scatter. Their hulls caught the energy, some buckling, but none breaking. The lead ship, a monstrous dreadnought with names scrawled in ancient Terran script. UNS Vengeance, return fire. One broadside, one salvo. The Radiant Spear shuddered as something struck it faster than light. In the distance, Serac's cruisers bloomed into silent flowers of molten metal. It wasn't a battle. It was slaughter. The human dreadnoughts advanced, formations tight, overlapping fields of fire disintegrating Koralin ships before they could maneuver. Serac's officers scrambled, shouting for orders that no longer mattered. Escape trajectories lit up and vanished as human railguns punctured their drives. The Radiant Spear's windows cracked from shock waves that shouldn't have existed in vacuum. Serac stumbled, gripping the rail. "They're just myths," he whispered. But the human fleet didn't pause. Drop pods flared from their underbellies, thousands of them, streaking down toward the Koralin slave worlds. On the planet below, billions of beings, Koralin citizens, indentured laborers, subjugated species, looked up at streaks of fire that outshone the dawn. To them, the myths were angels of retribution. To the oppressors, they were death given form. Reports poured in. Human Marines in powered armor breached orbital stations. They didn't speak. They didn't negotiate. They disabled weapons, freed prisoners, executed warlords with ruthless precision. Stories spread faster than any official channel could contain them. They fought in vacuum with no suits. They ripped armor doors from hinges. They disabled tanks with knives and bombs no bigger than a finger. Serac stumbled through the burning wreckage of his once proud bridge. He saw his reflection in a shattered console, a decorated hero of the Empire reduced to a trembling old reptile. A shadow fell over him. He turned. The human stood there, armor black and matte, visor reflecting only ruin. No insignia, no rank, just a symbol on the shoulder. An ancient earth clasped by a mailed fist. Admiral Serac, the human said, voice filtered and cold. You are charged with enslavement, genocide, and crimes against sapience. Serac dropped to his knees. We didn't know. We didn't believe you were real. The visor tilted. That was your first mistake. The armored figure lifted a compact weapon. A flash. Then silence. Across the system. The human ship stayed only as long as they needed to. Prisoners were freed. Supply lines obliterated. Command structures decapitated. Then, as quickly as they'd arrived, the human fleet vanished back into the dark, leaving only ruins and whispers. In the decade that followed, the Koralin Empire tried to hide the truth, but stories leaked, subjugated people's past tales from world to world. The humans had come, and if you listened close on the cold winds between the stars, you could hear their engines still, prowling for tyrants and slavers. Children were no longer told bedtime stories to scare them straight. Instead, they dreamed of the day the myths would come again, armored angels, faceless and merciless, wrapping the guilty in fire so the innocent could breathe free. And out beyond the rim, in the darkness where empires fear to look, the human Armada waited, watching, waiting for the next empire foolish enough to forget that myths are born for a reason, and sometimes they come back.